So, you want to know who the best and worst attackers are for Border? Well, luckily for you, today you're going to know all of them, because I'm going to make a tier list of all the attackers and defenders, and then you'll know which ones are the best and which ones are the worst, and why they're the best and why they're the worst, so let's jump into it. Right off the bat, we got Ace, and Ace is a fantastic operator on Border. He is going to remain pretty fantastic. For most sites, you don't necessarily need him, but he can establish that really powerful cross on the archives wall. I think Ace is probably like an A tier operator on this map. You could definitely get away with only bringing in Ace as your hard breacher. That being said, Thermite is a very strong hard breacher on this map because most of the walls are short range, and most walls you can get with just Thermite alone, and you don't actually need the range breach. And with Thermite, you have the flashes or the smokes instead of the claymores or the breaches, so you're probably going to get a little more use out of his secondary utility and also make much bigger breaches for your team. So Ace is going to be A tier for those reasons, but you know, AK-12, you can't really go wrong with picking Ace on this map. Amaru on Border, you're probably not going to achieve a lot. Really, the only play I ever really see with Amaru in high-ranked lobbies is flying through the sandwich window while you're running in with a Blitz or a Ying or something along those lines. Not a lot of plays you can make, not a lot of places you can actually go in from. So Amaru is just going to be F tier. I mean, pretty much useless except for minus maybe that one play, but it's not enough to bump her up a whole tier by any means. Ashe on Border is actually not too bad. I think that on Border, Ashe is a little bit better than most of her maps. I think she'd be in like the D tier here. She does have the breach charge along with the Ashe charges, so you can open a lot of that floor on the basement sites. You can use the range breach for castle, which is played a lot on this map as well. Downsides being she's not Zofia. Zofia is just going to be much better with the stuns and the impacts compared to just the Ashe charges like Ashe has. And on top of that, Zofia has the LMG, Ashe doesn't. So Ashe is just like a more inferior version of Zofia on this map, but a little bit better than most of her maps here. Never really a justified pick though. Blackbeard is still going to be F tier. Blackbeard's always going to be bad. His shields just suck right now, and maybe if they ever buffed him again, he would be better, but for now, he's just bottom F garbage. You can make a few plays with Blitz on Border. Now, you could run in the armory door, you can come in through archives, you can roam clear with them, combo them up with the Dokk for extra fun. There's a lot of short range areas that Blitz can be actually pretty strong in, but there's just better operators to pick in my opinion. I think he's just above Ashe here in the D tier, not very solid. Buck on Board is actually going to be really good. There's a lot of vertical you can play from underneath and from above, and he is the safest way to do that. I think Buck would be like a B tier pick on this map. The only real downside is he doesn't have grenades, which is why you would probably want to pick Sledge over him if you're attacking those basement sites. Now, he can't come underneath and Buck open that stuff. There's not a lot of room to move on like the armory site, for example. So a lot of that stuff you can just completely clear out with Buck, which is really nice. So his skeleton key is going to be more efficient on this map than it would on some. I'm actually going to bump him up to the A tier here with Ace. Capitao on Border is not completely useless. You can definitely use his flames to cut off angles along with the smokes to actually gain a lot of control. You can use the flames on like the half wall site or the half wall on the armory site. You could use them like from the teller's window to cut off those crosses. You can smoke the doorway and flame the doorway so they can't rotate in and try to hop in or something along those lines. So there's some plays you can make with the firebolts, but Capitao right now is a little weaker than most ops. I'd say he's like B tier on this map, which actually is a little bit higher than some of the other placements he's gotten so far. But yeah, not terrible, not amazing though. Dokkaebi is actually pretty good on Border. Border is a smaller map. The roam is much harder to accomplish successfully because there's so many ways that the attackers can come in from. So having the phone calls on top of that makes it even easier to clear that roam. I think she's like a B tier op, lower B tier for sure, but not a terrible pick on this map. Not an amazing pick, pretty mid, I would say. Finka's gonna be S plus tier. Finka's Finka. We all know about Finka. She's a beast right now. She hasn't been nerfed yet as of making this video. I'm assuming she's going to be nerfed eventually. For now, she's top of S, but if she lost her grenades, I would probably say she's like lower A, maybe top of A, somewhere around there, but for now, top of S. Flores on Border is actually very strong. You can use him from the armory door to clear stuff, like just the wall denial right off the wall, unless it's a mute, of course. You can use him to get rid of the shields over there, anything in archives from the archives door, the archives window. You can go into the teller's drone hole and clear a lot of stuff on site. Flores is actually very strong on this map. I would say he's lower A tier. You don't necessarily need him if you have other forms of clear like grenades, Gone 6, etc., but he makes it very easy to just get rid of all that stuff if, you know, you're having a tough time with it, or you just want to just get rid of it and not have to let your teammates deal with it, kind of thing. Fuze on Border, pretty strong, you know. AK-12, the Fuze is good for the basement sites. Bathroom tellers is a very common site. Ventilation is a very common site. And then I mean, even customs, if they decide to go there, you could use them there. Because 3 of the 4 sites are on the basement floor, you can fuse most of those from above and actually do some damage. If you bring the breach charges, you can breach charge above as well, or you bring the hard breach charges and you can open the hatches as well. So Fuze is honestly better on this map than most of his maps, but I just still think it's way too easy to C4 him, and he is a 1 speed, unfortunately, which is not ideal on attack. He's gonna be like lower B, which typically he'd probably be in the C tier. You could probably argue for C tier as well, but I think Fuze is better on this map than some. I actually put him above Capitao, put him high B. That's bold. That's bold. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Glaz on border is okay. I don't think he's like outstanding by any means. You could definitely do some smoke plays like on the Armory door, into archives. If you're going for like that Ying, Montagne, Glaz plant, you can do that as well. I think Glaz is like a C tier op. Not the greatest pick, and probably hurting the team just a little bit, so lower C tier area for now. Gridlock I think is actually pretty good on this map. Now there's not a lot of flank routes, so if you just throw down your track stingers, there's a lot of actual tracks they have to get through. You know, if you throw 4, you could line them up and they'll be plowing down tracks for days, and it can actually be pretty good. There's only a couple staircases, so if you are taking like a top floor on a basement site, you could completely lock down the flank with a couple tracks on each staircase, which would take much longer and be much noisier to actually take out. That being said, Gridlock is a 1 speed and not completely amazing. I think like lower B, like Grid is typically like a C or D tier op, but I think like lower B, like I actually think Gridlock is like a pretty decent pick on it. Hibana on border is going to be weaker than most of her maps. There is not a lot of range breach like I've already mentioned. She does have the flashbangs, but typically you'll want bigger size breaches for like the armory wall or the detention wall or whatever wall you're trying to open. So she's okay. She's still going to be very solid, but I think Ace is definitely a better option than her. The only upside is she does bring those flashbangs, but the Ace charger is just going to make bigger holes and actually be able to use them on the close range a little bit better. That being said, Hibana is a fucking awesome operator, and you can't really go wrong with picking her. Iana is going to be S tier. Border's a fairly small map, and those clones are going to make it much easier to clear effectively, efficiently, save you time, bring the grenades, bring the gun 6, and just overall very strong op. Finka, Iana, I mean, you guys know the drill by now. They're both beasts. IQ on border is not too bad. Pulse is played a lot, even on the armory site or the ventilation site or the teller site. There was a lot of pulse play to get those nitro cells because there is so much soft floors. And this is a map where I actually would think IQ is a good pick against just pulse alone. Valk, if she's up, IQ is also going to be very strong. Valk cams are very strong on this map as well. And there's a little bit of echo play in there too. So I think IQ is actually a pretty good pick. It's not a map that you necessarily need a ton of utility, so picking her isn't going to hurt your team very much. You know, there is quite a few things you can claymore, so the claymores will actually be useful. I think IQ is actually like a B tier pick on this map, like surprisingly good and surprisingly higher than I thought she would be, but now that I think about it, it's pretty high. Let's think here. I think IQ is top of B tier. This is actually by far the highest IQ placement we've had so far, but a lot of pulse play on border. Very good pick. Jackal on border is one of the most annoying operators in like the whole game to go against on border. There's not a lot of rotation routes. There's not a lot of flank routes. It's very difficult to just move around in general, I feel like. So the Jackal tracking you is you're just probably getting the pinch of the century and getting your cheeks absolutely smoked. On the armory site, he is a little weaker, but on every other site, he's a fucking beast because you're typically clearing like the entire map. So yeah, Jackal, I would put him just below Iana and Finka here, but S tier op for sure. Kali on border isn't horrible. There is quite a bit of bandit play on this map. Bandit isn't the worst op on this map. There's quite a bit of Cade play, but most of the time the Cades are actually right on the wall, so the Kali will actually be able to get them because there isn't a lot of like invincible Cade spots on this map. That being said, she still has that sniper. You can hold that really long angle from the staircases is one thing I actually like doing. I think Kali is probably like C tier on this map maybe. No, she's not that good. Most of the shit you can just nade off the wall anyway. I'm gonna put her in the D tier. Yeah, this one's tough. I'm putting her in the bottom of D tier, but she's not F tier at least, which typically she's F tier, so great work, Kali. This is probably one of the worst maps for Lion. I just feel like he's not super effective on this map unless you're like a very coordinated team. I honestly think he's like middle D tier. Most of the time you can just pick someone better on this map, someone just nades or just something else to bring to the team. I just feel like the Lion scan just not as effective as you'd like them to be, and most of the time you just don't need them even if you are using them effectively. So he's gonna be a mid D. This is one of the worst placings for Lion so far, and I don't know. I could be just completely off right now, but there he is. Let me know what you think about that. Maverick on border is actually not great. Most of the time you can easily nade the stuff off the wall, like through a doorway or over the wall or through a drone hole, and you really don't need the blowtorch. Plus on top of that, it is a little risky with people swinging out the armory door if you're trying to mav it, or nitroing you from underneath if you're trying to mav like one of the office walls. So Maverick isn't like extremely good on this map. He's still going to be good. I would say like top of B tier. He does have the nades after all. He's probably like A with Hibana. He's probably slightly better than Hibana just because he doesn't have the grenades over the flashbangs. Dude, no, I can't, because Hibana can get the hatches at least. I'm gonna put him back in the top of B. Maverick's gonna be top of B on this map. Maverick, I mean, he's got a good gun and nades, so you can't really go wrong. Plus the blowtorch, you can usually find something to do with it, I guess, but it's just a little riskier to play Mav on this map, and he's not gonna be as good on this map as he is on others. Monty on border is actually pretty strong. I think he's like a C tier up here with Glaz. Archives door plant, very, very good. He's also good on the ventilation site, on the bathroom site. There's a lot of good stuff you can do with Monty on this map. So he's gonna be like top C. Nothing super special, but not awful. I've been playing so much Nokk lately and just having such a good time with her. I think on border, Nokk is probably like A tier, probably up here like with Buck, right behind Buck here. A lot of plays you can make. You could be pretty sneaky and just walk around and kill people with the FMG9 and nade people through the floor. So middle A, pretty good pick on this map. Not the worst, but not the best. This is a map where I don't think Nomad is super strong. I think Nomad's probably top of C here. I think Gridlock is actually the better flank watch option on this map, which is surprising because most of the time she's not. It's just that the flank routes are so narrow, and putting up the Nomads, they're either easy to shoot or they're not going to waste as much time as the Gridlock tracks would. So worse option than Gridlock in my opinion. I could be off there. Let me know what you think. Like, yeah, sure, you could Nomad off some angles in sight and stuff and maybe be a little more effective occasionally, but I think overall Gridlock's going to be a better pick. Osa on border goes pretty dummy hard. You can set them up like on the office balcony facing into archives and just lock down rotations. You can set them up on the armory balcony. You can use them on like the teller's window, or if you're coming in from like the vent side. There's a lot of good spots for Osa, especially on the main site, which is the armory site. I think Osa is probably like an A tier pick, probably like top of A, maybe even a better pick than Ace on this map. No, probably below these guys, because very strong on the armory site, not quite as strong on the other sites, whereas these three ops are going to be good on pretty much every site, in my opinion. So Osa, very, very strong on armory, though. Very, very strong on armory. If you want to bust out Osa just for armory site, like, do it, because she's probably like S tier on armory. Sens on border, you can actually make some pretty good plays. Like, you could cut off crosses and push the half wall guy if you threw one in through the doorway and cut the site in half. A lot of good areas, I think, to actually use the gadget effectively that doesn't come down to just an execute. Definitely a bit of a better map for Sens, not the worst map for Sens, but then again, Sens is a pretty bad op in general. I think like low C tier, honestly. I think Sens is actually not too bad on this map. I think this is one where you could get away with playing Sens, maybe even above Monty. No, let's put them between Glaz and Monty here. Mid C tier op, that's the highest rating for Sens so far. So Sledge on our border is S tier. So much vertical destruction on this map. 3 basement sites, grenades, absolutely solid. Probably even above Jackal here. Maybe even above Iana. I would put Sledge above Iana on this map as well, actually. There's a lot of castle play, a lot of vertical play. Sledgehammer is going to be very, very useful on this map. And Sledge is probably someone you always want in your lineup on this map because just so versatile and so strong on border. Thatcher border is going to be pretty good. Thatcher's probably just like an S tier up because you are opening a lot of walls. Not going to be always necessary, but if they're running wall denial, very good. And you can also use them for like ADS burn with EMPs as well. It's Thatcher, going to be S tier pretty much all the time. Thermite, border, S tier. S tier, best hard breacher on this map, hands down. Big breaches on armory, open up detention wall, make a big breach. You can open up the ventilation walls and make a big breach. Pretty much every site, Thermite's going to be the best option, unless you're going for like an office take on the armory site. If you're going for the office take, that's where you might want like the Ace instead. But even then, you can open the triple wall and be more effective than other operators. I think honestly, Thermite is right above Thatcher here, like top S tier, mid S, I guess not top, mid S tier. Solid op, can't go wrong. If you're playing hardbreach on this map, bring a Thermite. Twitch border is pretty okay. I mean, there is a bit of Mira play, so you can get the Miras, you can get rid of ADSs and stuff like that. Cade claws, I guess, bandits if you can get into those opportunities. I think Flores is probably just a better pick overall than Twitch on this map. Twitch is like pretty mid on this map, I'd say. Probably like top B. Not awful, but Twitch is pretty good right now. Ying on border, very good op on this map. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Ying here. I would say Ying is right here above Osa in the middle A tier. Ying's a very good pick on this map compared to others. Zero on border is actually pretty strong as well. Like, honestly, just a better flank watch than Gridlock even. A lot of spot where you can hide zero cams. You know, you can take out that pesky 90 cam, which gives the defenders so much information by just shooting one into the wall and zapping it. The zero on this map is actually, I'm really liking the thoughts of this. I'm really liking the thoughts I'm having thinking about zero on this map. I think zero on this map is A tier above Hibana. Yeah, zero's gonna be second worst A tier op. Very good on border. And finally, we have Zofia. Zofia border. There's a lot of stuff to impact. The stuns are gonna be very helpful. You can definitely do a lot with Zofia here. I think Zofia is S tier, right above Thatcher. Very strong operator. And that is the tier list, guys. That is what we got. The best operators, the worst operators. So if you're running Finka, Sledge, Iana, Thermite, and Zofia every round, to me, that's an ideal lineup. You throw in a bit of Ying in there, you throw in a bit of Nokk, you throw in a bit of Zero, maybe an Osa shield, maybe a Buck every now and then, and you've got literally the ultimate border team. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you tomorrow for the defenders.